Hey guys, it's Christian from 7 Gaming Network, and here we are kicking off our Spirit of Rebellion Tactica series. And the first character that we're going to look at, he's big, he's ugly, and he deals in 1/4 portions. It is this man right here. It's Unkar Plutt. Now, let's dive straight into him. We're going to look at his dice sides, look at his health, his points, and how it all fits in together, and of course that marvellous ability that he's got. So, looking at his dice first, he's your classic control-y type character because we don't see any damage on there. So that's the first and most important thing to note. Now, focus is in a control deck is very powerful. We only got to look at Jabba to see how useful that focus can be. But what Unkar comes with is a 1 disrupt and a 2 disrupt side as well. Now, disrupt is one of those. I think that it feels like it's a bit underestimated because it can be very powerful. Yes, there are those times when you can't use it, of course, but having a 1 and a 2. Is really strong when you take into account what Unkar's points value, his points values are, and then I think we come to the real big thing about Unkar is he's got also a 1 resource and a +2 resource on his dice. I really thought, I was like, is that a misprint when I first saw it? Because +2 on a single die is massive. Especially when we factor in, like I just said, this points value. Unkar at just 10 points for 1 die, or 13 for 2 dice, is really, really crazy good value. I think his dice are really strong, and at those points values with 10 health, I'd be straight away. I think he enables cards like Crime Lord, which we'll have a look at in a moment, and all sorts of other things you wouldn't, I don't think, realistically be able to play with access to resources like that on your basic character die that you're starting the game with. It's super powerful. Now, I think really the crowning glory of Unkar is this action, is this ability. And interestingly, now that we're a few weeks into Spirit of Rebellion meta, it's been out for 2 months at this point, we can really now see the power of it. Remove any number of dice showing a combined value of 3 or more, then discard a random card from an opponent's hand and gain resources equal to its cost. So there's a couple of things going on here, and I think it's worthy of our time to just have a deeper look at it. Remove any number of your dice showing a combined value of 3 or more. Well, that might sound like quite a lot. And yes, it's rubbish if you remove 3 dice with a 1 side, with a 1 value side on. That's probably not. That's in a pinch. That's when the turn's gone wrong that we're using it like that. Now, what we want to use, there's a lot more big sides in Spirit of Rebellion now, and we can build a deck where we are removing just 1 die to make this happen on a fairly frequent and regular basis. Bear in mind, of course, as well that Unkar does have two sides on his own die, and so that's getting him really close to being able to do his ability from his own dice. And if you counter in the fact that he can do 3 dice, he can do 3 value of disrupt, which is when potentially they might not have any resources left. This can be a really good way of still getting brilliant value out of Unkar's dice, because you may roll early and you roll the 1 and the 2 disrupt. Well, that's probably going to prevent your opponent from taking any more resources for the rest of the turn if you were to leave them there. And then at the end of the round, you could just get rid of those combined value of 3 and use Unkar's action. And unless your opponent's been a bit savvy and used their cards to re-roll and things like that, you really might catch them with an expensive card in their hand at the end of a turn. I've used this on many occasions to do just that. So, and then the other aspect of his ability, of course, is discard a random card from an opponent's hand. Well, that's really strong. Imagine if you could get, let's say, 2 3-value dice and do this ability twice in a round, or heaven forbid 3 times in a round, you're discarding their hand really strongly. And it's not like it's just a discard, because it also, you gain resources equal to its cost. I mean, this is really stacking up to be very, very strong. Because, yes, okay, it's a random one, so we don't know that we're going to hit something and get something out of it. But I would just reference the meta that we're in at the moment with Awakenings of Spirit Rebellion out. There's a lot of expensive cards out there. The big decks that are getting played at the moment, things like Pomaz, well, it's got some massive cards in it with the vehicles, the supports that are in there. So, and at the very least, this is discard. So I think Unkar can also fit into, well, I think he can fit into a number of decks. Yes, he's a more control-y style character, of course, but he's quite cheap. So you could actually be using him for a 10 and get him in with something, we've seen him used with characters like nines for damage. He can be put with troopers for the damage, and he can be the sort of resource engine of the deck. And this ability, of course, it gives you a bit of a really quite invasive control. I mean, it's horrible knowing that you can have things discarded from your hand at random when you use this ability, and that it could hit for a large number of resources. And one of the things we generally don't want rogue villains to have is lots of resources, because they can punish us. Now, there's a number of ways they can punish us, but first I just want to look at probably more of the control-y builds that we tend to see Unkar being used with, because we got these 2 cards, Imperial Inspection and Salvage Stand. They are, of course, 0 to put out, and the big thing is that they activate, if you look, off Unkar's sides. Imperial Inspection activates when you roll a Disrupt, Salvage Stand when you roll a resource. So if you've got both of these in, you've got 2 very powerful effects going on just for activating Unkar and rolling his dice, and you've got a very good chance of activating, well, definitely one, I think. You've got a very high chance of activating the one of them, and you've still got very good odds of activating the both of them. And imagine if you had all 4 of these out. I mean, that's going to be late game, but you can be killing your opponent's resources each turn with a Salvage Stand and bouncing anything that he does manage to get back out. So as a double whammy, it's a really big control and a great pairing to go with a character like Unkar, whose dice naturally fire those 2 off. Moving along then, so talking about giving those rogue villains resources, if Unkar is able to get out something like a blackmail, this is such a strong card with Unkar. First of all, it's got several 3 sides on. So remember where I talked about his ability needs a 3 total cost to fire off. Well, we've got 3 on here. The 3 Disrupt, if that's not usable, you've used up all their resources. They've used up all their resources. Great, you get to fire Unkar's ability. 3 shields if you don't need them. 3 discard. Blackmail's a very strong card anyway. But when you factor in that Unkar can use it so effectively, it really goes up in value. Now, another card that I think is incredibly strong with Unkar is Crime Lord. Again, we need lots and lots of resources. So you may have seen my faster Fat Lords deck, which is Jabba and Unkar. Definitely the most beautiful pairing of characters in the game. And the Crime Lord works so well in that deck because of Unkar's +2s. When you combine that with Jabba and he can re-roll a yellow and he's got focus, you really stand a very good chance with data pads and things like that of getting those resources fast, getting them early and getting to play them out. And Crime Lord is such a great ability for winning the game quickly. And if you think about the meta that's currently going on at the moment as I post this video, it's all big characters. You've got Pomaz, you've got Vader Raider, and we've got Palpatine. Well, Crime Lord just fits so well into that. And of course it's also got big sides on, so even if you don't hit the specials, you probably can be pushing towards using it for Unkar's ability, and then you're just powering up for a crime lord to go off next turn. Now then, we've also got over here, look, we've got prized possession. My goodness, this is a card. I think this is, again, massively powerful, really strong against those big character decks. And prized possession, 4 resources. This is definitely something that Unkar can get together again very readily, and is just brilliant control. And one of the things that we tend to find with an Unkar deck is it does need to be able to deal with incoming damage. Your opponent's probably going to pick on Unkar. Well, if you can prize possession of Poe dice or one of Palpatine's die, wow, you're well on the way to winning that game. Now then, some defensive options to go with Unkar. Like I said, he's going to be a target. So I really like these 2 cards. Personal Shield, okay, has got double blank on it, which is painful when you're paying 2 resources for an upgrade, but it's also got a 3 side, and it's a 3 for 1 that you're going to have to pay for. Well, Unkar can make a lot of resources, so we don't mind paying for that 1. And actually, if we've got shields and we're doing well, that's another 3 side that we can be chucking to Unkar's ability. And of course, there's still plenty of ranged out there, so the ability that it's got on it is really good too. And then we have armor plating. Now, armor plating is a card that if there's lots of vibro knife going on in your meta, you might not really want to use, because of course it just ignores its unblockable damage. But armor plating is really strong for 1, and again, it's just the kind of card that's really helpful to keep Unkar alive that 1 extra round, or maybe Jabba alive that 1 extra round, for you to get that crime lord off that all the resources from Unkar has been able to make happen. Now, I've mentioned a couple of characters there. Here's a few that I want to focus on specifically. One is Jabba the Hutt. I think he's a very natural fit together, and he makes Unkar so much better because of being able to smooth out Unkar's dice and really increase the chances of you getting all those resources out of Unkar. And the 2 of them together, well, they're 21 health. It's not terrible for 2 characters, and when you factor in you can be playing quite a lot of removal, lots of good removal in yellow, and of course you've also got those cards I just mentioned. You can potentially keep those characters alive for quite a good amount of time. Certainly enough to get things like Crime Lord off, or slow your opponent down with prized possessions and things like that. Now then, another cool character that I think goes well with Unkar is Death Trooper. And the reason why is because it's linked to another card, which is this one here, Endless Ranks. So, I mean, Death Trooper is just good at putting out damage, and he's got 10 health. But Endless Ranks is very expensive. It costs 5. So it's tough to get off. But hey, Unkar he's a resource generator. If he's not generating it from his dice, he's probably generating it from his ability. So it makes a really natural fit to have something like Death Trooper with a nice big health pool of his own that you can then get an Endless Ranks off. That becomes really, really strong. Maybe you're playing with some redeploy as well, so that you've got maybe something like a TIE pilot to go with him, or even a stormtrooper. You've got well, you can't have Elite Unkar Death Trooper TIE pilot, that's too many points, but you could have Elite Unkar Death Trooper Stormtrooper, and that has been quite a popular deck in recent weeks. So the ability to be able to Endless Ranks fairly consistently with Unkar around, I think makes Death Trooper a really, really cool combination to go with him. But of course you could also include Nines, FN2199. He is a really strong character to go with Unkar as well. You can also get him for 10 points, which feels a bit crazy to me, for 11 points, for 11 health as well. You might want to think about that one too, because it's very, very good. But of course you can't Endless Ranks FN, so that's the trade-off. So you get a very, very powerful character with 11 hit points, or you could get a character who could, as long as you get your Endless Ranks off, essentially be 20 hit points, which is really cool. Now then, TIE Pilot. I really like TIE Pilot with Unkar because look, he's got a +3 side, which is really cool. He's also got a focus. That's helpful for getting those +2s off and making sure we get the most out of our Unkar as well. And he's got a +2 one as well. So really helping us to get Unkar's ability off. Now the final card I'm going to mention here, I mean there's so many you could mention with someone like Unkar, but is Con Artist. And the reason that I've mentioned Con Artist is I think that Unkar can also fit in that sort of villain mill type deck. And so Unkar becomes a really good option for a Con Artist to go onto. And to be played with those sort of Unkar type decks. He's got the disrupt, so if you're playing that sort of Imperial Inspection type build, it's going to help with that. And the big thing is, of course, it's going to be able to get the discard, the mill happening with its ability. And I think also with the fact that Unkar, he's got focus, you could be using that to make sure you get your Con Artist off. And actually, what I'm finding more and more is if you're playing a mill, wow, even sometimes just getting this effect off a couple of times in the game can be enough to really clinch it for you. 30 cards is not very much. So anyway, there's a few cards for you to have a look at. There's a few things for you to have a think about with Unkar. I really do think he is one of the most powerful characters in the set. He's so well costed, and he has got a good amount of hit points. He's got great dice with that fantastic ability. And I think where the meta sits, I think he's strong and he fits in very, very competitively. Whether you choose to go with a sort of a mill style deck or whether you choose a very heavy control-y type setup with him and then more damage with the other characters with him, I think you've got quite a few options. Or you can go the more combo-y style, Crime Lord style decks. Loads of options, really cool and interesting character. Right, so I hope that was helpful for you. Again, if there's something you think I've missed, and there will be, it's a quick video just giving you a sort of an overall look at a character like Unkar, then hey, put it in the comments. This is meant to be a resource for everyone in the community to have a look at and gain from and be able to include in their decks and their builds. One thing I haven't really talked about is how to play against Unkar, and he's one of those characters that I think what you have to bear in mind all the time is his action. Don't get caught with pants down, as the expression goes. What you don't want to do is get caught with him setting off his ability and you looking down at your hand and going, oh crikey, I've got 3 of my 4 cards here, cost 3 or more. That's going to be devastating. So you need to be very aware of your own hand management as you're playing against Unkar, watching the dice that he's rolling out and making sure that your opponent isn't going to be able to activate that action and then really catch you out and hit something nasty. And if you can see that that's a potential and you've got a card you really want to play, you need to make sure you're on it and get that card out and played out quickly. And of course, if that's in response to things like you needing to have characters activated and so on, I think you need to plan your turns out against Unkar a little bit. Because if you want to play a special event after you've activated Vader, you need to be managing that, especially if the Unkar player has got the initiative, which is probably not something we're going to happen very often. Most Unkar decks that I've seen tend to be 3 character decks and tend to be a little bit slower, but it is something definitely to bear in mind. But I think he does need to be a target, especially if he's an elite. If he's elite, then the longer you leave him out, the more he's going to get value out of things like if he's playing Imperial Inspection or Salvage Stand, the more he's going to get value out of that happening, the more resources he's going to build up quickly, or the more disruption he's going to cause you and slow you down. That's generally what an Unkar player wants to do against you, just slow you down, make the game go longer so he can get his endless ranks off, or he can mill you out, or whatever he is, or get to his combo more quickly with Crime Lord. So he is a target. He is the target to go for. And for instance, if I was playing Unkar Jabba, I'm going to go for Unkar 90% of the time, unless we see an early Crime Lord hit Jabba. Anyway, so please do put anything in the comment section if you think I missed anything. just encourage you to check out swdestiny.com as well, full of great articles, lots of tips articles and videos and things like this to help you with your tactics, with your strategies. And if you are getting more into the competitive side of Destiny, then please do have a listen to the Knights of Ren podcast. They're great guys and they do amazing content if you're of more sort of a competitive minded edge when it comes to Destiny. Anyway, that was Unkar Plutt, one of my favourite characters. He's awesome and I love building decks around him, and so hopefully you will do too. Until next time, keep enjoying Destiny.